Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. Tonight and tomorrow we're teaching the doctrine of raising the dead out of Paul in the book of Acts 20, finishing up what we started on a couple of weeks ago. But right now, let's go back to that very famous story of Hannah and the birth of a prophet by the name of Samuel. It all started in the heart of a tormented woman. In the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, beginning with verse 4, whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and could not eat. Now I want you to notice, in each of our lives, there are people who torment us. And please, I know this is a horribly negative thing to say, but welcome to the reality of life. Now you can always tell when someone has positioned themselves as a rival in your life. Now that's not you positioning yourself, that's they position themselves as your rival. A rival will always torment you. In verse 6, tormented her for the purpose of irritating her. And then in verse 7, every time she went to God's house to worship, she tormented her to the point that she was weeping and couldn't eat every time she went to God's house. Now the funny thing about this whole story is what her rival tormented her about. Her rival tormented her about an unfulfilled promise of God. This is why the torment got worse as she got ready to go to God's house to worship God. She got ready to go to the temple to worship God. Her rival tormented her even worse because the Lord had closed her womb. Now the Lord had closed her womb because he had a purpose. He had a purpose of bringing forth a prophet of God to lead his people Israel. Now Hannah prayed in verses 10 and 11 and made a vow to God. And then God remembered her. Samuel was born. And the next thing you know, he becomes a great prophet of God. But after she fulfills her vow and leaves her child, her only son, dedicated to God to serve in the ministry, God then opened her womb. She had 3 more sons and 2 more daughters. Chapter 2, verse 21. Now that is blessing, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. I encourage you today, if there are people tormenting you, and they seem to enjoy tormenting you because it seems that a promise of God is not fulfilled, pray, make a vow to God, and watch God fulfill his promises in your life.